Good afternoon, everyone. For all of you, those who have joined recently, I am Meghna Yadav, the presenter of the session today. On behalf of KLAY Schools and Daycare, I extend a very warm welcome to each one of you to this wonderful evening. Today, we are sitting together for a very important discussion in today's world when it is full of choices, it is full of options, and we really, as parents, at times struggle on how do we bring discipline, how do we bring the sanity in emotions to our children. I think this is a very pertinent topic of discussion among parents. So let's discuss this today. And let's see what research has to offer, what the child psychology has to offer about this beautiful and very important topic in today's world. So, extending a very warm welcome again. I am Meghna Yadav, and just to make you comfortable so that you can ask your questions by the end of the session, let me introduce myself. I am a certified child psychologist and family counselor, especially for parent education, and kind of a retired person. I'm running in 25th year of my professional life. I have done my master's in child and adolescent development from California and worked over there. After my journey in corporate sector as especially for preschools and schools, for director of operations and curriculum development and parent education program. I am running now my consultancy. KLAY Preschools and Daycare is my only client in India, and I work hand in hand with KLAY and feel privileged and honored that I'm associated with parent education programs at KLAY, as well as uh, more or less training and development of human resource at KLAY. We do come up with multiple courses under the academic body of KLAY Preschools and Daycare, which is Institute of Early Childhood Education and Development. And I really feel honored that I get the chance to interact with parents, and I feel that in a way I'm serving children when I connect to parents like you. So before we begin our discussion for today, I extend my heartfelt gratitude, a big thanks to each one of you. And in fact, we all should clap for each one of you because you sitting here talks volume about your involvement in your child's life and how beautifully you want to get engaged in raising an emotionally strong child. A topic which is very close to my heart because during my research, I also focused on developmental milestones and emotional developmental milestone. In fact, socio emotional developmental milestone was a very crucial aspect when I did my research years ago. And since then, I have been participating in such discussions. So thank you so very much for sitting here. In terms of session overflow, let me quickly tell you that I'll try my best to bring some practical tips after discussing the critical roles that parents play in a child's life, especially when we are talking about emotional strength. And then we will try to understand this with a practical example, and I'll open it up for Q&A. But my friends, please don't wait till the end for your questions. You can for sure type your questions in the chat window, and I'll for sure take it on first come, first serve basis. During the presentation also, whenever you feel like, please feel free to post your questions. I will take it up as I promised just now. I'll try my best to answer in my best capacity. The age range that I'm certified to work with is 0 to 80. So if you have children older than that, I should be keeping my mouth shut because I'm not certified to work for older children. But yes, if you have from pregnancy till teenage, I will try my best to answer your questions with my humble understanding in this field. So, having said all this, I think my biggest qualification or my biggest strength lies in my motherhood as well. So, I'm mother of two, a boy and a girl. And I pretty much go through what you must be going through when it comes to how do I raise a child who can really fight the real battles of life rather than just passing the exam on the paper. And we all are sitting here for this beautiful discussion. As I said in the beginning, let's jump to some very basic facts. And I want to share a disclaimer. What I'm going to share with you is a very general approach, is a very generic way to address such topics. Having said that, each family is unique, each child is unique. So it is very difficult to generalize such an important topic. So I would request you to take everything with pinch of salt. If you think this particular research or this particular idea can function in your family, and if it fits into the thread, please adopt it. And if you think, no, this is not something which will fit into my family structure, please don't adopt it. I leave that judgment on you, because you are the best judge for your own child and for your own family structure. But what I'm trying to share in coming few slides is something that has worked for thousands of parents. So you feel free to see if this is something that aligns with your thoughts or not. So very first thing that I would say is, let's try to understand how the parenting works when it comes to emotional strength of children. So one thing that I will tell you is that these are very studies based facts, not something coming out of my heart. So you might agree, you might not agree, but this is something that most of the studies in recent times are highlighting. So I would like you to go through this and just see whether this is something which is resonating with your thoughts or not. The first thing that the studies highlight is that the basic approach, the emotional strength of children, the first tutor, or I would say the first teacher when it comes to emotional development, is actually the parent, both mother and daddy. And as the child grows, goes out of home and meets with peers and socialize and develop, that's when it gets gradually exposed, and the horizon gets broader and broader to learn the emotional nitty-gritty of human life. But the very first way to learn the emotional developmental aspect come from the family, from the parents, from the home environment. And that's why parents play a very crucial role in developing a child who can fight the real battles of life. Uh, and how do you train children on that? How do you develop a child who is strong enough? So, mothers, those who are sitting in audience as mommies, or those who are expecting, here comes the good news for you, that your attachment is very much there even before the child comes to this world, because the moment the child comes into your womb, you tend to get attached to the child. Whereas in fathers, we see generally that the first month of parenting, when the child enters into this world and celebrates the first month, that's when the paternal sensitivity and attachment is seen. And to develop emotionally strong child, the most important aspect is to have a, a very secure attachment, if I can use that word. You have to have that secure attachment right from the day the child comes to either the mother's womb or to this world. So mommies and daddies, you have a different pattern of attachment. Both the patterns are known to be very strong from the very beginning, but mommies do not expect that the daddy dear will be as attached to the baby as you are, especially during those 9 months, because you are privileged, you are honored that you can carry the child in the womb. So that is something which is a special gift to mothers only, I think. So enjoy that, because your attachment starts little earlier than daddy's attachment. Uh, More or less, the timing is different, but to be honest, in terms of the attachment levels, studies do not highlight much difference. Both mommies and daddies are found to be attached significantly to the child, and hence both of you play a very crucial role in development of children, especially when it comes to emotional strength, or what we commonly call as resilience. These two are different aspects, but we will talk about it later. But just to keep you informed that both of you might have different kinds of attachments, different timings of attachment, but the attachment levels are found to be pretty much same. So do not underestimate the powers of motherhood and fatherhood. Each one of you play a very crucial role in giving that security and sense of attachment to the child, which will ultimately result in building a child who is emotionally strong. And many a times we have done multiple research on these aspects, especially on parents, and what we have seen is that mothers respond to emotional needs of children differently than daddies response, and that is the beauty of, I think, motherhood and fatherhood. So those fathers who are sitting in the audience, feel free to call your partners to join this webinar. We would love to have a discussion with the couple, because when both mommy and daddy think on the same page, it works wonders. This is what I have seen, because when I counsel parents, I meet up almost 30 to 35 parents in a day. And what works wonderfully is that sometimes when both mommy and daddy have clarity on their individual roles, and the charisma is present when it comes to daddy or mommy. So, okay, the recording of the session, I am actually not sure, but you can for sure write to KLAY. If KLAY has the option of sharing the recording, I'm sure they would love to. By the end of the session, I will share the email ID on which you can write, and for sure you can get the recording if available. Fathers tend to work around developing the strength of children through exploration, and also developing a sense of independence, in the sense I can do it, I am the person responsible to do it. Whereas mommies bring this emotional security to children through the measures of safety, and through the measures of having a balance between emotional uh, attitude and the analytical attitude, which we call as the balance between heart and brain. But mothers do play a very crucial role in that. There are multiple studies done through a functional MRI of mothers and fathers when it comes to developing emotionally strong children. And we have seen that the brain functions very differently for mother and father in a similar or same situation, when it comes to children's anxiety, or when children are having temper tantrums. So mothers tend to work more from amygdala, which is more emotional response, whereas fathers take time in responding to a child's need, because they function from a different part of the brain, which is about processing. So what I'm trying to say, if I have to summarize our last 2 minutes of discussion, is that both of you, mommy and daddy, play a very crucial role in developing an emotionally strong child. One thing. Second thing, mommies play a different role and daddies play a different role, because the way you approach to a situation is very different. So you might have difference of opinion among you two, but trust me, ultimately this is beneficial for the child. And I go through the same pattern, where I disagree at times with the way my husband responds to our children needs. But I think that's the beauty of nature. And we have to agree on that. The good news is that fathers are now getting more and more involved in housework and childcare. So I'm very hopeful that fathers will bring that unique flavor as well in parenting. The mothers, when they participate in developing the emotional strength, and after this I will share the practical tips coming from the research on how you can develop an emotionally strong child. So, mommy dear, if you're sitting in the audience and listening to me, let me tell you that the way you respond to a situation is very important to your child, because not only what you say, how your body language works and how you respond to a situation is something that your child is imbibing, absorbing. And that is when life throws challenges in your life as a mommy, in your life as an adult, the way you respond to the situation that is what you are passing on to your children. So if you are emotionally strong, trust me, you will develop children who are emotionally strong. And that's a very interesting study. So the random words that you see on the screen right now, this was a very interesting study that children could not make out what are these words. But when a mommy was asked to pronounce these words that have no meaning attached to it, children's brain responded to it. They could copy it blindly, 97% of the children. So what I'm trying to say over here, mothers, we do not realize that our children are watching us all the time. But because you have the capacity to attach with the child a little earlier than daddy, and because you can focus on multiple tasks at one time, because that's what studies highlight, your response to multiple situations during the day counts a lot. If you are emotionally strong, you will develop an emotionally strong child. Yep. For daddies, we have seen a different pattern. Daddies, your role work a little differently because you play a significant role in development of leadership skills among children. And these are just studies not coming from Meghna, but trust me, these are just studies that I'm sharing. So with due respect to each and every gender, we see this pattern where if a father is present in the family, children are found to be doing a little better than other children in terms of leadership skills, in terms of not becoming a follower but lead the group. So the father's involvement is crucial in that. And also the socialization skill. I think socialization and leadership skills are very like mitten and hand relationship. If you have great socialization skills, you will end up having great leadership skills as well. That's what the pattern we see while we study the leadership skills among children. But fathers have found to be playing a very crucial role in resilience rather than emotional strength. And that's what I was saying in the beginning, that mothers develop this strength in the sense that when we are doing the day-to-day activities, mothers play a very crucial role in making a child strong. And fathers are found to be playing a very crucial role when it comes to resilience. Resilience means, oh, I'm facing a huge challenge in my life. How do I gather myself and how do I fight back? How do I respond to this tough situation? That's when fathers are found to be playing very crucial role, and this is what the pattern that we see among young children as well as teenagers. So across age group, this is a pattern that we see. So both of you play a very different role, but very important role. Now, how do you bring that emotional strength in the child? What is it that you need to do in day-to-day activities? I will share all that with you so that I will save enough time to take up your questions. Please feel free to post your questions, and when you are posting your questions, please write the gender and the age of your child. That will help me in answering your questions. But let's try to see what all we need to do as parents to develop a child who is a strong girl enough to fight the real battles of life. And my friends, in today's world, when I work with children, especially teenagers, I see this, that children tend to really not able to exercise the potential that they are blessed with simply because they are not emotionally strong. I come across many children who are brilliant, who are academically doing very great, but they are still not able to reach their potential simply because the emotional strength is not at its peak. So let's see what we can do at home. And these tips that I am sharing with you are applicable to all the age groups. So do not hesitate in trying to your family members, but please see that whether it fits into your thread or not. So the very first thing, so I have certain action items for you, and I have tried my best to simplify because my colleague at KLAY helped me in preparing these slides for you. So very practical approaches coming your way. Uh, the very first thing that I see over here is that the most important way you can bring emotional strength to a child is to listen to them. So complete attention when a child is saying something to you, especially let's say about school day or something happened while the child was playing in the evening, is very important. So I hope you guys can see me on the screen. So let's imagine you are just typing an email and the child comes, you know what happened in my school today? You should leave the typing then and there, move a little bit towards your child, face your child, make eye contact, and then listen to the child. If you are rolling a chapati, you are cleaning the dishes, you are folding a laundry, and your child is coming to you, just like this happened in my school, my friends, just this body language change, that you leave your task, listen to your child, and then say, huh, you can come back to your task. But just giving that feeling to the child that, hey, buddy, what you are saying is important to me, goes a long way. And this will help you a lot if your child enters into teenage. And if you do this exercise from the day the child enters into your life. So please understand that this complete attention will develop a bond between you and child, which the child will need in teenage, which the child will need in later years. And the more your child comes to you, the more you will get the opportunities to invest in child's emotional development. Once your child says something, pick up the keywords and then repeat. So I'll tell you one simple example. Uh, my child came and the child said that I lost my school diary. And this was when my child was quite young. Now I am living with a teenager almost. But I was really busy or was not interested in listening more about the school diary. But when I did this exercise and turned towards him and then I heard him, I realized it was a very important deal with him that he lost his school diary. For me, it was just a school diary. We can procure one more. But for him, it was a very big deal. And that is something that we need to understand and just repeat and reflect that, yeah, buddy, I see that you are sad because you lost your school diary. Am I right? That's it. This is a very simple exercise. If you can do that, this is the very seed of emotional connection, because children, when feel emotionally connected, that's when they develop strong when it comes to emotional strength. The second action item is, after you listen, after you repeat, it's a good idea to sometimes label the emotion, like you heard in the previous sentence. Sad. Sad is the word, is the labeling. It means you give them the really the vocabulary, because when children feel something and when they express it with the right words, that's when the brain gets into the zone that, okay, I am struggling right now, I am a bit upset, I am a bit angry, oh, I'm super excited, I'm a little disappointed. These are the feelings that the brain should know while fighting it out. So name it to tame it is a very good way to really work on the emotional expressions of children. So I would heavily recommend you to get into this exercise where not only you identify the emotion of the children, but also label the emotion. That will help you a lot, where, and especially that will help children in how to process the emotions. So those children who are known to process the emotions from early years, uh, you really, really have to understand that if I can process it and if I can label it, I will be able to come out of this tough time. So there is a direct connection between processing of emotions and fighting the negative emotions. So it's a great idea to bring this habit among children, and you can start it as early as 1.5 years for both boy child and girl child. Yep. So pretty much in the same line, my third action item coming your way, it is a great idea to develop emotional vocabulary and fluency when they talk. And my friends, please do not get confused that fluency should only come in English or any particular international language. Uh, I would really, really say that uh, it is fine to use the words in the native or colloquial language. In fact, I encourage that a lot because emotions are best described in the language of heart, and the language of heart is your native language. People do say that, Meghna, I think in Hindi and then I talk in English, and that's perfectly fine. That means your emotions are coming in Hindi or the language that is close to your heart, be it Kannada or Telugu or any language that you have. So, my humble request, if you can get into this habit, and for this particular action item, adults in the family need to practice it. This is easier said than done. As long as you are fluent, as long as you have a good emotional vocabulary as parents, your children will learn that automatically. Uh, Please understand that you really, really needed to bring this concept to children by demonstrating it. So the demo works best for this particular action item. So if I have to say to my child that why am I smiling today, or why do I feel happy? I feel happy when I see that tomorrow is a holiday and today is Friday. I am planning to watch a movie on Friday evening, and because I'm planning to watch a movie, I'm happy today. So, simple sentence. But you know what? Sometimes as adults in the humdrum of life, we tend to forget to put words to our emotions. It is a good idea to do this exercise. On an average, it takes you with conscious efforts around 45 to 50 days to enhance emotional vocabulary among adults. So practice this for coming 40, 50 days, and you will see a difference in your conversations with your children. If you can bring these kind of conversations in dining table, having breakfast while reading newspaper or so, it's a wonderful idea to talk on these lines, that examples that you see on your screen right now. Your child will have better emotional vocabulary. Children and teenagers who have higher levels of emotional vocabulary are found to be scoring very low on the scales of anxiety and worrisome attitude, especially in teenage years when they are fighting the battles of entering into colleges, fighting competitive exams. And that's why I say that bringing emotional vocabulary in family from early years is a wonderful idea to fight it out. My next action item for you, I do see some questions coming up. I promise I will take it up. I'm wrapping up this discussion real quick, and probably you can find some of the answers over here. And then we can take this up as discussion. I'll try my best to answer your questions in a general way so that others can be benefited as well. Uh, After you bring out the emotional vocabulary, it's a very good idea to acknowledge and validate, in the sense that when your children are throwing tantrums, or when you see that the child is rolling on the floor or not happy, in that moment, if you say something to the child, my friends, children are not listening in that moment. Children will struggle in that moment, and whatever you say is not going into the ear. Even if it goes into the ear, it's not absorbed by the brain or the heart. So it is a good idea to have the acknowledgement or validation of feelings a little later after the tantrum is over. On an average, we recommend to give a gap of around 4 hours to discuss what happened. So let's say in the grocery shop, the child was rolling, howling to get something which is a junk, let's say a soft drink. I can't think of any other junk right now, but anything junk that you don't want to give, and the child is behind you. I want, I want, I want, I want. At that time, if you have said no, that means no to the child, and the child threw a tantrum at that time. Give yourself around 4 hours, give your child around 4 hours. After that, you go back and acknowledge that I know you were not happy that I refused to get you a junk food. I sometimes also feel bad when I'm not able to do the things that I love to do. But this was the reason I did not offer you so and so. And it's a wonderful way to acknowledge. It's a wonderful way to validate their feelings. The more you do this exercise, gradually the child will get into the zone where your child will be able to do this exercise by herself, by himself. And this is what is needed in today's world, because this gives the strength that children will need when they enter into hostel. I work with many teenagers who have just started college life. The new universities and new colleges have started, and parents are dropping them to hostels. And when I talk to them, I realize that the emotional strength of early years now coming into existence when children are on their own. And this is a wonderful action item if you want to see that happening. Now, my friends, last three items, in fact, these two items that I'm going to share with you are more or less oriented towards emotional resilience, in the sense when children are hit with some tough times. Let's say the child is not getting the desired grades, the child is not able to make many friends, the child is not able to perform well in one particular competition where he or she wanted to perform well. These are very common challenges that children are posed with in today's world. And to develop a resilience on how to fight back in such situations, it is a great idea that you involve your children in problem solving through day-to-day activities. So I'll give you one simple example. If a this happened, and we had a jar which had a lid, and a jar which was liked by many at home, and suddenly I dropped it. So the lid was gone. Only the jar part was left. And then, and that very moment when it was broken, uh, children, including myself in the family, felt a little sad, because that was something very dear, a precious one coming from generations. So it was really precious in that sense. Uh, and then I was like, oh my goodness, this jar is gone and we cannot use it anywhere. And then I was just saying that, oh, it's sad to see this gone. I just said that. And then at that time, my younger one was under 10. And then the child came up with an idea and said, why don't we grow a plant in the leftover jar? A plant would need a lid. And that's a wonderful example of problem solving. I met with the mommy who shared similar example with me, and I told her the similar example, that hey, this is the way children problem solve. Like, okay, no need to be sad, you can now grow a plant in that broken jar. Very small problem solving skill, but these are the ways children learn the resilience, that okay, this is the gone part, but this is what I am left with, and I should focus on what I'm left with rather than what is gone. Uh, and these are the very beautiful ways you involve your children in. So whenever you have such challenges, I just gave you one example. There are plenty. I'm sure each one of you must be having some story, similar story. So try to adapt that as much as possible, because when you focus on problem solving skills, that's when emotional resilience is also developed. And apart from problem solving skills, my friends, in today's world, I see a bigger challenge, that parents sometimes enter into a zone where they believe that they are the entertainers in the family. They need to keep the child engaged. They need to offer one thing after another for children to stay engaged. So they fill the home with the toys, they buy a lot of books for children, they make sure that children are going to hundreds of hobby classes. But what the study in the child psychology highlights is very different, that actually boredom is brilliant for children. Boredom is brilliant for children. Allow them to get bored, because that is when they will learn how to help myself. If a child comes to you and then say, oh, I have nothing to do, and we use the screen time as a pacifier at times at that. My friends, I think this is a very important message for all of us as parents, that screen time cannot be a pacifier. Instead, it's a wonderful idea that you allow the children to get bored and find solutions on their own. And if they come back to you again, you can probably ask, how can I help you? But uh, don't jump to offerings quickly. Easy solutions coming their way might make them dependent on you, and your ultimate job is to make them independent. Yeah, the success of the parent lies in the fact that your children won't need you. Easier said than done, very heavy to a heart. Uh, I feel sad that one fine day my children won't need me. It hurts my mommy ego. But trust me, this is the reality. So your success lies in the fact that your children won't need you one day, and this is a wonderful way to develop that in children. So whatever we have discussed, I will share one last slide with you and we'll take up your questions because I can see flooded of the questions. So this is just one example to tell you on how do you bring all these things together, and a slight difference, very practical one. And I thought the recent pandemic that we all fought and came out as winners. So these are some of the sentences, some of the examples that parents have used, and we see a difference in the approach. So I thought it is a good idea to bring this to your desk. So my friends, there is a very thin line between this, and if you know the difference, probably you will end up developing an emotionally strong child. So instead of telling your child from the pandemic days, these are some examples that those parents who used age appropriate informations were far more supportive to children in fighting the pandemic than those parents who ended up over informing their children about the virus. So a simple sentence difference: there is a monster virus around, or the virus is killing people. Go for that. There is a monster virus and we need to fight it. So you are developing the fighting spirit of your child. Uh, Instead of saying, hey buddy, if you go out you will get sick, it's a better idea to tell your child that let's fight the virus, we need to stay indoors even if we have to come out of this battle as winners. So these are very simple ways, but just the change in attitude, the change in the conversation, bringing a lot of vocabulary which is age appropriate, can help children in developing the fighting spirits. uh, Instead of just saying that hey, you cannot share food or toys with your friends next door because you might get infected with the virus. This is basically instilling fear in the child. Whereas the moment you change the wordings and change the sentence and saying, sharing toy is fun, but sharing germs is not, you are basically hitting the brain, which will end up having better precautions. So I think these are the examples from real life that you can probably imbibe and absorb. I just wanted to have a quick practice session with you that just see the change in wordings and how much difference it makes in the life of the child. And these are wonderful studies coming out in after pandemic that clearly highlight that not only what you say but how you say matters a lot, and it's a great idea to be watchful of your own emotional vocabulary, your own emotional fluency. And if you can check your own emotional responses to the day to day situations and challenges, your child might turn into a much more emotionally strong child. I rest my case here because I want to take up your questions. The time is limited for all of us. So I wanted to save these last few minutes to discuss your questions. If you have more points to discuss, if you want to know more, feel free to write to us. I will share the email ID with each one of you, parent.support@clayschools.com. Feel free to write to this email ID. We will be supporting you in your questions. Please expect a delay in my response because we are flooded with questions on this email ID, but I promise that you will hear back from me. So let's uh, take the questions one after another, and I can start with the first one that I received so that I do justice to this. Okay, the first question is: my son is 4 year old and he seems very weak when he goes to school. His classmate take stuff from him and he do not take it from his friend. He give it away very easy. He will complain me, but don't resist at school. Thank you so much for asking this question. And I seriously feel that you are not alone in this, daddy dear. You are really, really not alone in this. I hear this kind of story multiple times during a day. And what is happening over here is that we see it from the world of adult. But when such kind of episodes come to you, kindly try to see it from the world of children. So probably when your child comes to you, the child is sharing what happened in the school. So first thing that you need to check in this situation is it hurting your child the way it is hurting you? So with due respect to your emotions, there is a pattern that we see, that sometimes parents feel that my child is in pain. Actually, the child is all happy to share. The child is all happy to give away because the child wants the group affiliation. The child wants to be a part of the group. So sometimes what happens, children tell only one side of the story. They might be telling this also, that I gave this, but what they took in return, sometimes they don't share, and children are smart enough, trust me. So, first thing is, please do not jump to conclusion that your child is always at the giving end. I am sure there might be stories where the child is at the receiving end as well. And the best lessons of life are learned in preschools. So I'm so glad your child is doing this from the very beginning. So do not jump to conclusion that your child is frail, your child is weak, or your child is not able to fight the battles of life by because the child is always at the giving end. Not necessarily true by listening to this story, because trust me, it might be only the half part of the story, one side of the coin. Having said that, if you hear this multiple times and if you have observed, so one thing that you should do is take your child to group settings and observe silently. You will know the personality of your child. So when children are playing with each other, just see, is your child is always at the receiving end? Sometimes when there might be some ways where the child is showing the leadership skills and the child might be doing great in those sense. If you see such episodes, relax, take a back seat. These are real lessons of life. The children will process the information on their own and will fight it out on their own. Do not guide them. Do not talk a lot about, hey, no, do not give or so, because they will naturally learn this process. 4 years to 6 years is an ideal age to learn this barter system of give and take. So please do not rush, do not over guide your child. But if you really think that your child is struggling at every front, and if your child is really, really into giving mode and not showing the leadership skills, the best way to train children on leadership skill is to demonstrate it. So, what do you do in such cases? Uh, for example, you and your child setting up a dining table, and the child ran out of spoons. So the child said, hey, pass me the spoon. And you will say to your child, what did you help me with in last time? So then you say, okay, you helped me for so and so, I will help you today. So this is the first way to tell your child's brain that, hey, this is not one way interaction. You give me some, I will give you some. So when you are passing the spoon to the child or helping the child in setting up the dining table, I'll help you, buddy, today. Tomorrow, can you help me in folding the laundry? So you do this barter system at home, your child will learn it automatically. Do this exercise for around 3 to 4 months. On an average, we see the results around 80 to 90 days of this exercise at home. But I would still say, Daddy dear, please understand that sometimes children are only telling you one side of the story. So go out and check whether your child is actually at the receiving end all the time. I'm sure this child might be smart enough to give it back to the friends as well. So don't worry much, and don't over guide your child if that is the case, because that's when we hurt their self esteem. So you need to be a little cautious on that. I hope I could help you a little. Let me move on to the next question. Mother of 3-year-old daughter. Awesome. Looking for tips to handle toddler tantrum. She cries, screams for almost all the things, multiple meltdowns in a day. How to handle it without getting angry and shouting back. I think, mommy dear, you posted this a little earlier than when I talked about the temper tantrums, and I explained to you that in that moment, the best idea is to keep quiet. 4 years, 4 hours after that, you can talk and discuss this. I think I already answered this question in my presentation. What if we are speaking with an adult and the kid interrupts me? Should I stop conversation with the other person and talk to the child? Awesome question. Thank you so much, Mommy dear, if I understand your name correctly, for asking such a wonderful question. And this is something that I would request each and every parent. So in today's generation, we see a pattern, and as I said to you, I am working with teenagers and teenagers entering into colleges as well. There is a pattern, and especially with Indian urban parenting. I don't see it in parents of smaller cities of India, but in metros of India, because I work with around 35 to 40 parents in a day. And I see this pattern, and basis my humble experience, I can tell you. In today's world, my dear friends, we are actually offering a lot to our children. We are making their lives so easy that they do not taste the real challenges of life up to 19 or 20. And that's when they struggle big time, and when they are on their own and they don't know how to fight, how to make friends, how to make a place in society, because we were always there for them and we are offering everything on a platter to them. Children have started believing that, oh, I deserve it, rather than getting the concept, I need to earn it. So this question is very important question in parenting. If you want to raise emotionally strong children, allow them to taste failures from the day one of life. Allow them to fail, allow them to fall down, because that's when they will learn to get up and fight again. So if you are speaking with an adult and a child interrupts, you have to turn towards your child. Remember, complete attention. So your body language should change. You have to make eye contact and then say, buddy, I'm talking to my friend. Wait for your turn. I'll get back to you. And allow your child to wait for another minute or so till you complete your conversation. But do not forget, mommy dear, that you have to go back to your child and say, thank you for your patience. Thank you for waiting. Now you tell me what you wanted to say. Do not allow your child to complete or interrupt your conversation. Allow your children to know that they need to wait. In technical terms, we call it delayed gratification. And there are multiple studies on that about instant gratification and delayed gratification. So, what you asked, the question, is actually rooted in the concept of psychology, which we know as delayed gratification. And our children should learn that in today's world when everything is on fingertip, that not every wish comes to you on a platter, and not all your wishes will be fulfilled in this life. Yep, very beautiful question. Thank you so much. I hope I could answer your question in the way you wanted me to. My daughter, who is 15-year-old and is in 10th, seems to get confused and panics in exam center, leading to low scores. Her teachers are equally confused where things go wrong during exam. Ah, a big hug to you, my friend, because I hear this question almost 10 times a day. And I'll be honest in answering your question. This is not something that can be worked around right now, because your child has already celebrated 15th birthday. But those parents who are sitting in audience have younger age group. Please focus on that. What I just said is that the emotional resilience, the capacity to fight back when I am actually low in esteem, or I am performing lower than expected, that is what the training starts from the day one of the child's life. So please focus on that in this age, because of the hormones kicking in and the pressure of academics and performances. It is very difficult to handle it at this age. What you can do at this age, parent dear, is to talk to your child. And how do you talk? Do not talk to the child about what all she needs to do. You tell your own real life stories to your child, how you flunked, how you failed. Uh, I had a child who came to me soon after appearing for an exam and said, Auntie, I will get only 4 marks in maths paper today. And immediately my answer to him was like, You know what? And this is actually the truth. In one exam, I scored 3 out of 35 in history. And I am sitting in front of you, so that did not change my path much. So, what I try to tell that child is that it's okay, buddy, sometimes we all fail. So, the real life stories, and if you can do this, especially in this age group, and even if those parents who have younger children, instead of reading the book time, the book nap time stories, or reading a book while putting the children to bed, I would heavily recommend to keep the books aside and share your real life stories with your children. And don't portray yourself as heroes. Portray yourself as normal human beings who have failed in past, who have flunked in past, but still doing good in your professional life, doing good in your personal life. And this will hit your child a lot. So make this an exercise, parent dear, during bedtime, or especially when teenagers are sitting with you, next to you, or having dining table conversations. You and your partner can talk about the ways you struggled in appearing for exams and still you did good. This will help the child to gain the self-esteem a lot. But if your child is really, really struggling, no harm in consulting a parent education expert or so, because sometimes it is very child specific. Right now, I'm giving you the answer on a very general understanding. So if you think something like that, talk to the pediatrician of your child and see if the child really needs help. But this is a very general answer to your question. Okay, last question. I'm so sorry if I have missed your question because of the time constraint, but I will take one quick last question because we have to wrap up this session, and hopefully Clay will bring many more such webinars to support you in your journey of parenting. So quick question is that I have two girls, 1 and 4, both have different emotional needs. Sometimes both their needs come up at the same time. Both start crying tantrums for different reason at the same times. Whom do I address such situation, and whose needs do I attend to first? Mommy dear, you might not like my answer, but I will stay honest to my profession and I will give you the answer that my humble understanding tells me is to not attend, not attend their needs. Trust me, it might sound funny, but sometimes these children help each other beautifully. If they are pulling hairs of each other, do not intervene, let them pull hair and settle their fights on their own. If they are throwing tantrums, allow them to throw the tantrum and address it with the gap of 4 hours, like I mentioned earlier. The best way to train children is to not intervene until unless it is really required. You have done a fabulous job, and this is my humble request to all the parents sitting over here, that you have two children at home. We do see many challenges coming when the child is alone at home, the single child. But when there are siblings, children learn the good lessons of life on their own. Let them fight mommy, as long as you are not rushing to emergency on daily basis with the bruises on head and faces. Don't worry, let them fight their own battles. You behave as if you do not exist, and trust me, they will solve it on their own. This is the best possible answer I can give you in few minutes. Okay, and let me take quickly one more question. If I know people are requesting. Uh, I'm sorry, my friends, but a good question. Do we need to know a lot of emotions myself? Yes, the answer is yes. It's not only about knowing, even if you whatever you know, as long as you can put words to it, as long as you can label it, and as long as you can express it with the right words, you are good to go. So knowing is not important, but labeling and expressing it in front of your child through words and body language is very important, mommy dear, so that uh, you really, really train your children, give a demo to your child on how do I process my emotions. Children who can process emotions are found to be stronger emotionally in the long run of life. Um, I sincerely apologize to all those questions. I can see the flooding of the questions, but I am very, very sorry that I just could not take up all the questions. Uh, my apologies. I can read some wonderful questions, but time is a constraint here. I have to enter into another session right away, sharp at 5 p.m. So I am so sorry that I cannot take up all the questions. Please feel free to post these questions on the email ID I shared with you, parent.support@clayschools.com. Please expect a delay in my response because we are flooded with such kind of queries, but I promise you, you will hear back from me. And if need be, I can connect on Microsoft Teams to discuss this. So those of you who really need help in that direction, feel free to write to us. We would love to support you. Thank you so very much. If you like the session, thanks a ton. Your words really motivate me to study more, to bring the research on your desktop and see if that can help you in your parenting journey. And my friends, if you really, really want to grow emotionally strong children, the best way is to nurture yourself, take care of your own emotional health. A strong mommy, a strong daddy will end up developing a strong child. So take care of yourself to take care of your children. Thank you so very much. Thank you so much if you like the session. Thanks a ton for all the beautiful words that you are pouring for me. It really motivates me. I am so thankful if you found it wonderful and informative. Thanks a ton. This means a lot to me. You made my Friday. I look forward for the weekend to study more. And thanks a ton for all the beautiful words you are writing to me. If you love the session and learned something out of it, I feel honored. Thanks very much. And thanks to Clay Schools, a special mention to Abhilash, the IT support person for this webinar, and Kinshuk, who is helping me from the back end. Thank you so much. If you found this session wonderful and you loved it, it made my day. Thanks a ton for the wonderful words you are pouring onto me. It motivates me a lot to study. With my folded hands, I convey my heartfelt gratitude to each one of you. Parents, let's invest in ourselves. Let's stay happy so that we pass this on to our children. Take care of yourself, and I am sure you will take care of your children. As long as we are able to fight the battles of life, our children will be able to. So allow them to fail, allow them to taste the flavor of failures in life as early as possible, because that's what will prepare them to become emotionally strong. With that note, I say goodbye to each one of you. Happy parenting to each one of you. And I'm sure our paths will cross again, and we will bring many more such sessions. Clay is a wonderful, happy place for children, and I love the fact that I consult with the company that invests through parenting so much. So thank you so very much, and hope to see you again. Thanks a ton, Clay Schools, for bringing this webinar and allowing me to connect with the parents over here. Thanks a ton. Thank you so much for your kind words. Means a lot. Thanks. Bye-bye.